Chicago, a city that should not have existed this fast. Just 40 years earlier, this was swamp and prairie, mud, tall grass, and a narrow river cutting through flat land near Lake Michigan. But by the late summer of 1871, Chicago was exploding. Railroads stitched it to the nation. Grain, lumber, cattle, and industry poured in from every direction. Fortunes were being made almost overnight. The population had surged past 300,000 people. It felt unstoppable. But there was a problem. Almost everything was made of wood. The sidewalks, wood. The houses, wood. The warehouses, wood. The factories, wood. Even many of the streets were layered with timber planks over mud. Chicago was a city built from forests. And in the summer of 1871, those forests had become dry. That year, Chicago barely saw rain. Weeks passed under relentless sun. The wind moved constantly across the flat land, drying everything further. The wooden buildings cracked and shrank in the heat. Dust gathered along the streets. Sawdust floated through the industrial districts like pale snow. No one thought about fire, because small fires happened all the time. Chimneys sparked. Blacksmiths hammered near open flame. Lanterns swung inside barns and stables. Factories burned coal day and night. It was normal. Fire was part of life, and Chicago believed it could control it. Walk with me through the city. The sun is setting over the Chicago River. The docks are alive with movement. Steamboats sit low in the water, heavy with cargo. Workers shout as crates are unloaded. Stacks of lumber tower above the waterfront. There are entire districts devoted only to wood. Timber yards stretch block after block, boards piled higher than rooftops, dry, pale, brittle. The smell of fresh-cut pine mixes with coal smoke. Across the river, tightly packed homes stand shoulder to shoulder. Two-story wooden houses, painted in faded whites and browns. Porches facing narrow streets, laundry hanging between buildings. Children running along wooden sidewalks that creak beneath their feet. Horses pull carriages through dust. The air is warm, too warm. You can feel it in your lungs. In the business district, shop windows glow in the evening light. General stores, dry goods merchants, saloon doors swinging open and closed. Inside a blacksmith shop, a hammer strikes metal. Each blow sends a burst of sparks outward, tiny stars exploding in orange light. They land on wooden beams, on sawdust-covered floors. No one flinches. This is routine, safe, normal. Above the rooftops, smoke rises from hundreds of chimneys. It hangs low over the city, a permanent haze. From a distance, Chicago almost looks like it is already smoldering. But the people do not see danger. They see progress. They see opportunity. They see the future. Chicago is the symbol of American growth. Raw, fast, ambitious. Not elegant like New York. Not historic like Boston. Chicago is new money and rough hands. It is sawmills and stockyards. It is noise. It is speed. And speed does not pause to consider weakness. Move toward the western neighborhoods. Here the streets are even tighter. Buildings lean to one another, separated by only inches. Wooden shingles overlap across entire blocks. If you stood on one rooftop, you could almost run across the city without touching the ground. That is how close everything is. The fire department exists. There are water pumps, horses ready to pull engines, but they rely on wooden water mains buried beneath wooden streets, and pressure is inconsistent. Still, the city feels secure because nothing catastrophic has happened. Not yet. On the outskirts, barns and small farms line the edge of urban growth. Hay is stacked high. Lanterns hang from beams. Cows shift in stalls. The wind passes through cracks in wooden walls. It carries dust. It carries heat. And it carries something else. Dryness. A dryness that has settled deep into every plank, every beam, every shingle. The entire city has become fuel, but no one sees it that way because fire is invisible until it isn't. Night approaches. The sky turns deep orange over Lake Michigan. Street lamps begin to glow faintly. Families gather inside wooden homes. Dinner tables lit by oil lamps. Children asleep in second-floor bedrooms beneath wooden ceilings.
Shopkeepers close shutters, stable doors are latched. The wind does not stop. It moves steadily across the flat land, whispering between buildings. If you listen carefully, the city sounds restless. Boards creak, signs rattle, distant factory whistles echo. Somewhere a dog barks, and somewhere else a lantern flickers. Chicago does not know that it is standing on the edge of transformation, that within hours its shape will be erased, that the skyline of wood will vanish, that thousands will run through streets glowing brighter than day. Right now, it is calm, alive, confident, a wooden giant breathing slowly in the heat of late summer, and giants made of timber burn.
It begins quietly, not with an explosion, not with a scream, but with flame. A small, ordinary flame inside a barn on the west side of Chicago. Even today, historians debate the exact spark. A kicked lantern, a stray ember, an accident in the dark. What matters is this: the barn was dry. The hay inside it was dry. The wind was strong, and the city around it was made of wood. The fire starts small, contained, manageable. Orange tongues licking at beams, a glow behind wooden slats. At first, neighbors are annoyed, not afraid. Fires happen. They send word for the fire department. Horses are harnessed, engines roll out, but something goes wrong. Earlier that evening, another fire had already stretched the department thin. Messages were miscommunicated. The wrong location is reported. Precious minutes are lost, and the wind does not wait. The barn collapses quickly. Flames leap upward, higher than expected. The heat intensifies with shocking speed. Sparks explode into the air, and the wind catches them. They rise and then travel, over fences, across streets, onto rooftops. One by one, shingles ignite. The fire begins to move, not crawling, running. Residents open their doors to see an orange glow down the block. Some watch with curiosity, others with growing unease. Then they hear it. A sound unlike ordinary fire. A deep, rolling roar, like a furnace breathing, like a storm made of flame. Firefighters arrive, but the pressure in the hydrants is weak. Water streams fall short. Horses panic from the heat. Engines struggle through narrow wooden streets already beginning to burn. Flames jump from building to building with terrifying ease. There are no fire breaks, no stone barriers, just continuous rows of timber structures pressed tightly together. The city itself becomes a fuse. Within an hour, entire blocks are ablaze. Families rush into streets carrying what they can: blankets, Bibles, photographs, children. Some believe it will stop at the next street. It does not. The wind strengthens, and something extraordinary begins to happen. The heat becomes so intense that the fire creates its own weather. Air rushes inward, flames bend horizontally, roofs ignite without direct contact. Windows explode outward from pressure. The night turns bright as day, but this light does not comfort. It devours. The Chicago River was thought to be a natural barrier. Water should stop fire, but the river is filled with wooden docks, oil, tar, debris. Sparks cross it, ships ignite, warehouses along the opposite bank burst into flame. The fire has now crossed water, and panic spreads faster than the blaze itself. People run east, toward Lake Michigan, toward open space, but the fire moves northeast, driven by relentless wind. Church bells ring wildly, the sky glows deep red, ash falls like black snow. Some streets are so hot that boots begin to smolder. Horses collapse, carts overturn. The sound is overwhelming. Cracking timber, shattering glass, screaming steam, roaring wind. It is no longer a city fire. It is a firestorm. Entire neighborhoods vanish in minutes.
Buildings that took years to construct collapse in seconds. Factories explode as stored fuel ignites. Rail yards burn. Elevated grain silos erupt into pillars of flame. The fire consumes not just homes, but ambition, wealth, dreams. Chicago's identity, built in wood, is dissolving into sparks. By midnight, tens of thousands are fleeing. The lakefront becomes a refuge. Families huddle on the beach, watching their city burn behind them. Some pray, some stare in disbelief. Some say nothing at all, because words cannot describe what they are witnessing. A horizon of flame stretching miles wide. The courthouse burns. The business district burns. The heart of Chicago collapses inward. And still, the wind does not stop. It carries fire northward, block after block, hour after hour, until nearly 4 miles of city are engulfed. Then, slowly, by the morning of October 10th, rain begins to fall. Light at first, then steadier. The wind weakens. The fire exhausts what it can consume. And finally, it dies. What remains is silence. A silence so heavy it feels unreal. Over 17,000 buildings destroyed, more than 100,000 people homeless, a third of the city gone. Not damaged, gone. Blackened foundations, smoking debris, twisted iron, ash where neighborhoods once stood. But something else remains. Space, an empty canvas. Chicago did not disappear. It transformed. Out of ashes would rise brick, stone, steel. Within decades, Chicago would pioneer skyscrapers, fireproof construction, modern urban planning. The wooden giant had burned, but from its remains, a new city would emerge, stronger, higher, unstoppable in a different way. And if you stand in Chicago today, looking up at towers of glass and steel, it is almost impossible to imagine that beneath your feet once stood a city made entirely of wood, waiting for a spark.